Hello and welcome to Chapter 3. This chapter focuses on professional boundaries. Professional boundaries is something that I know in my office area we struggle with. I've been trying to record this and I keep getting interrupted, so we'll see how this goes for you all today. So in our EMS or in EMS, our window into a patient's life is rather short. It's often less than half of an hour. We see a crisis, we stabilize it, we transport, and boom, we're done. So community paramedicine flips that. You're in a patient's home for an hour or sometimes even longer, and you'll come back week after week. So that means instead of a snapshot in time, you get the full story. You'll see patterns, habits, and risks that no one in the emergency department is ever going to see. The book stresses that CP providers spend more time with patients per visit and across multiple visits. Our IBSC exam may ask about the major differences between EMS and CP contact, and the correct answer is always a longer duration and repeated interactions. In our 911 calls, we rarely see beyond the surface. We just scratch it. In CP, you're in their world. You're exposed to not only the patient themselves, but also to their environment. That means you're going to notice things like food insecurity, unsafe furniture, family conflict, all of which impact their health. It also means more hazards, loose animals, firearms, drug use, unsafe housing. This deeper exposure can help you make some real changes, but it also means you must be deliberate about boundaries and safety. We talked a little bit about safety with our last chapter too. So the book is clear though. The three areas of exposure are the patient, the living environment, and environmental hazards. Community paramedics build therapeutic relationships over time. Most programs follow a weekly visit model that lasts 4 to 8 weeks, roughly. That is very different from 911, where we drop the patient off and move on. So these long-term engagement, they require consistency, trust, and boundaries. Boundaries are so key. We're trying to keep the continuity of care, and we are also trying to build relationships with these patients over time. The types of interactions you'll have in community paramedicine is different. It's not the emergency scene, flashy lights with a crowd of people watching. It's quieter, longer, more personal, and that shift means you'll have to sharpen three things: your professional boundaries, personal safety, and your patient interaction skills. So they're not soft skills. They are very critical to your success in the field, as well as knowing your protocols. Everything in community paramedicine rests on these professional boundaries. So think of them kind of like invisible guardrails that are built on trust, respect, and confidentiality. Unlike EMS, where your interactions end at the hospital, here you are cultivating a deep relationship that does last for weeks. Without the boundaries, the relationship can slide into over-involvement, burnout, and unsafe situations. With clear boundaries, you protect yourself, your patient, and the integrity of the program. Both the textbook I find and the IBSC exam emphasize that it's the community paramedic's responsibility to establish and maintain boundaries. So it's always you, the provider, that needs to clearly establish this. Boundaries aren't just about saying no, they are also about your actions. So at first, your visits focus on the medications that they take, your patient's vitals, and what health issues they have. But then as you begin to develop that rapport and your trust grows, patients often share more personal struggles that they are going through. That is okay, but you've got to be able to filter every interaction through that one question: is this in the patient's best interest? So those boundary shifts are often testables as well. So focus on the boundaries can adjust with trust, but they must always serve the patient's health and safety, never your own personal needs. So think of trust as your currency in this role. Without it, patients are not going to disclose the truth. We have the same thing in the back of the truck with our patients. If they don't trust you, then you're not going to be able to provide care as well as you need to. So for example, let's say a patient may admit that they can't take their meds because no one will pick them up. That's a trust breakthrough. That is important. So think about how we can develop trust through these repeated successful interactions. So it's not time alone, but it's consistent, respectful, and engaging conversations that we have. So think of therapeutic relationships like a spectrum. On one end is under-involvement, being so distant that we cannot build trust, and on the other end is over-involvement, getting too personal or crossing lines. So we've got to find a way to stay in the middle, professional, compassionate, but with that healthy distance as well. So when you do step into a patient's home, you are in their world. The rules of engagement are build trust, maintain professional distance, and keep open communication. That means being approachable but not too personal, and being observant but also not judgmental. It can be a little bit of a balance. So maintaining those boundaries is your responsibility. The patient will often push you, so they might call and invite you to dinner. They may call you outside of work or offer gifts, and you've got to be able to redirect and set those limits for these patients so it doesn't turn into an unhealthy relationship. So with these patients, make sure that we are keeping those roles. And if they do offer a gift, have a plan in place on how we are going to politely decline the gift. Just keep in mind, we're always acting in the best interest of our patients. Make sure that we set those healthy boundaries. So these clear boundaries do protect both of you. They set limits on physical contact, emotional closeness, as well as privacy. So without our guardrails, you risk harm to yourself, to your patient, or to the program as well. So for testable points, expect a question that lists several behavioral situations and ask which represents a boundary violation. I saw several of those. So generally the correct answers involve excessive touch, emotional dependency, or privacy invasion. I think we're all familiar with compassion fatigue. That is something that does happen. So that happens when you are so wrapped up in a patient's problem that it completely and totally drains you. Look for warning signs, dread seeing their name, frustration during visits, or avoiding contact. Those are things that could trigger you in on that you may have some compassion fatigue that is happening. Make sure you are seeking support. Small town reality in Western North Carolina. You'll see patients at church, the grocery store, maybe even your kid's school when you're not on shift. And so common challenges include self-disclosure, off-duty visits, gifts, dual relationships, physical contact as well. So the IBSC does focus on these, as does your book. So they might say which of these is appropriate. The safe answer is usually minimal personal disclosure, no off-duty visits, and the polite refusal of gifts. So when in doubt, run your decision through 4 filters. Ask yourself once again, is this in the patient's best interests? How does this affect care? How would others view it? Am I okay documenting it? If you can't check yes to all 4, basically don't do it. Just don't do it. Some red flags that you may look for would be including romantic thoughts, extra time being spent together, favoritism, or venting about work to a patient. Consequences can include uncomfortable encounters, harassment claims, or even litigation. Something as small as calling a patient honey can be interpreted as an invitation. I am horrible at this. I call everybody honey and have to always put myself in check. So that is one thing, though, that it can be seen as a violation. So keep that in mind with these. These are red flags, and if you do see them coming up, a seemingly harmless word or action can be a boundary violation. The book and IBSE does stress this frequently. So just to be clear, boundary violations aren't just awkward. They can have also very real consequences. If you cross the line, you can end up in an uncomfortable or unsafe situation. You can face claims of harassment or even litigation, and you can put your own safety in jeopardy as well. So an example straight from the text, if you call a patient babe or honey, you may think you're being friendly, but the patient can interpret that as permission for physical contact. Once that door is opened, you can't easily close it. And you just put yourself and the program both at risk. Okay, so small boundary slips can escalate into big problems. So the correct test answers for these with our testing usually involve key consequences such as legal risk, harassment claims, loss of certification, professional risk, loss of credibility, loss of program trust, personal safety risk, misinterpretation leading towards unwanted contact or violence. So if an exam gives you a scenario where the paramedic uses casual or affectionate terms or makes exceptions for one patient, the correct answer is always that is a boundary violation with potential legal and safety consequences. Your safety also matters as much as the patients. Think of every home visit in 3 phases: before, during, and after. Plan and stay situationally aware and always debrief after. So always safety first, patient is second. So before our home visits, make sure that we know the address. Prepare your car as well. Park smart and stay alert in the neighborhood. If approaching the home, trust your gut. If something feels off, leave. Know what that gut instinct is telling you. So safety starts before you ever get to their door. You need to know where you're going and let the patient know you're coming, so that way you're not going to walk up with them and surprise them. In the vehicle, make sure your car is in good working order and don't forget small but critical steps like checking the back seat, under the vehicle, locking valuables in the trunk. These aren't just suggestions, they are also survival skills for solo providers working in unpredictable settings, which we all do. Our book does highlight vehicle checks, concealment of valuables, and notifying the patient ahead of time as safety priorities. So when you park, always have an exit strategy. Choose a well-lit area and avoid parking in the patient's driveway or on dead-end streets. That can trap you with no way to get out. Instead, park where you can get back on the road very quickly if something happens. That is something that did show up on the CPC practice test as well that I had taken. So that was one that may pop up again. For our community, as we move through the community, stay alert, keep your eyes open for unusual behavior or unsafe conditions, carry your phone, portable radios, and visit new or unfamiliar locations early in the day when visibility is better and risk is lower. That way there's no surprises. Make yourself visible to local businesses or institutions nearby. That's kind of an extra layer of safety on top of that as well. Being proactive. When we are approaching the home, it does require trusting your gut once again, and if something does feel off, maybe there's yelling inside, hostile people outside, aggressive pets, don't push through it. Safety outweighs completing a visit. Listen to your gut, and if your gut is saying it's not safe, then you need to notify dispatch, supervisor, and leave immediately. So for our addresses, if they're incorrect, don't wander around and ask strangers. Call dispatch or your agency for clarification. If you're followed on foot, get into the nearest public building. If you're followed by car, walk away from your vehicle until the threat passes. If people are loitering around, cross the street. And if you're confronted verbally, stay professional and disengage. So there was a question that popped up on the IBSC, something about what should they do or CP do if approached aggressively outside a patient's home. Of course, correct answer should be disengage, maintain professionalism, and seek a safe place. Your clothing also matters. Make sure you're wearing shoes you can run in and clothes that won't slow you down. Keep your keys secured on you and not tossed in a bag so they're easily accessible. If you use elevators, try to ride alone and press the buttons yourself. Don't give others control over where you stop. So it is sad that in this day and age we do have to keep those things in mind, but a primary thing is your safety when you are on scene. So expect questions about this as well. So they may ask which clothing choice is appropriate, safe answers, non-restrictive, practical, safe or rapid exit. Every step before entering the home should be intentional. Think safety, communication, and preparation. That theme is always the same. Protect yourself first so you can be there for your patients as well. If the test asks about the most important stage for safety, the answer is always before the home visit, because prevention is your best protection. So when you arrive to the patient's home, read the environment, like you read the room before you step inside. Note signs like no trespassing or beware of the dog. If you hear yelling or argument, leave immediately. If someone answers the door you don't know, confirm who they are before going further. Know your exits, your doors, windows, whatever it takes. Make sure that your safety is not compromised. If you feel it is, leave immediately. Inside our patient's home, keep your situational awareness high. Note where you entered and also how you are going to exit. Use safe practices or safe, sharp practices and maintain infection control. That's not just OSHA rules. They do keep you alive in unpredictable environments as well. So your work isn't finished when you leave the home. Make sure you're washing your hands, disinfecting equipment. This is kind of redundant from the previous slides, but most importantly, document the encounter accurately. If anything felt safe, make sure you are documenting that and make sure it's a part of their public chart. Report it even if nothing happened, even if you just felt something was off. That reporting builds patterns and protects you and your program as well. I know most of you have been in and out of homes and houses at 3 a.m. more times than you can count, and you already have that gut instinct, and you've walked out on scenes that didn't feel right. So what makes community paramedicine different is we're not in crisis mode anymore. You're walking into the same home week after week, sometimes in the daylight, sometimes on scheduled visits, and the patient expects you to be part of their normal routine. That shift means you can't rely only on adrenaline and the street instinct that you have developed through the years. You need a deliberate safety plan. This is something you fall back on every single visit because the environment is less dynamic than 911, but the risks are often more subtle. So the book defines the safety plan as a tool for assessing risk and pre-planning safety. This is something that you will also see as a testable as well. So here's what the safety plan really covers beyond the obvious, of course. Our pre-visit, not just know the address, know the patient's backstory. Are there behavioral health issues in the household? Has there been domestic violence or a risk for it? Does the neighborhood have a history of hostility towards providers? I know in Buncombe County, when I worked there, that there were certain neighborhoods we did not go in without law enforcement with us. So in CP, you are sitting down with them, maybe at their kitchen table, okay, for 45 minutes or so. That's a long time to keep your situational awareness up. So position yourself so you're not boxed in. Your PPE isn't just for blood and barf and all that fun stuff. It's also about protecting yourself from MRSA, bed bugs, respiratory exposure, and our chronic care homes. For our post-visit, don't just write a SOAP note. Document safety observations, unsecured firearms, unsafe living conditions, any patterns of hostility. That protects you and your agency as well. For communication, dispatch tracking is non-negotiable. They need to know where you are. You're not on the radio like in 911. You're often out of sight for an hour, so build in check-in times within your plan as well. Personal disclosure, this is a big test point. Patients may try to pull you into their personal world. Where do your kids go to school, or do you live around here? So unlike 911, you're a familiar face now. So decide up front how much you want to share and keep it professional as well. Two of the most important parts of your personal safety plan are communication and personal disclosure. So a little bit more on that. Communication in 911, once again, dispatch needs to know where you are because CAD tracks the unit. It's not the same in your own personal vehicles. So I know I'm beating a dead horse with this one, but just make sure that somebody knows where you are. Build communication into your plan. How are you going to let dispatch know at your location of all time? Are you using GPS from your phone or your tablet? Are you radioing in? Do you have a scheduled call out or check-in? And most importantly, if something does go sideways, when and how do you contact law enforcement or request backup? So you can't wait until you're in the middle of a situation to figure that out. And once again, that personal disclosure that I mentioned. This is where seasoned medics can get tripped up because that relationship with patients feels less formal over weeks of repeat visits. So once again, really have an idea of how much you are willing or you want to share. Make sure you are going in with that set boundary in place. Developing your safety plan means writing out how you will handle each phase of a visit. So don't just memorize the components, personalize them for yourself. So in WNC, that might mean factoring in long drive times, that poor cell service that we all deal with, small town overlap where you're going to see these patients at the grocery store. Each of you will have different red flags and strategies. It's not cookie cutter, but the point is outline them early so you're never caught off guard. The book stresses that a CP should outline each component and how to address it. That's absolutely key. So in closing, a plan only works if it's usable. So that means something that's comprehensive, but also simple. Something you can apply without thinking too hard about. And just like patient care, safety plans must also be flexible. The friendly patient today may be intoxicated and aggressive tomorrow, and your plan must adapt with the circumstances. So debrief with your supervisor, update your plan as patient situations evolve, and they most likely will. The IBSC highlights adaptability. If asked what makes a safety plan effective, the correct answer is generally simple, comprehensive, flexible to changing patient or environmental conditions. Finally, your safety plan only works if you actually use it every day. Apply it before, during, and after each visit, how you park, where you sit, how you document, and how you decontaminate. The part most medics underestimate is personal disclosure. And repeated visits, patients will often ask you about your family or your life. You are familiar and oversharing feels easy. That's going to blur your boundaries once again. So make sure that you have that clearly defined before you go in. Can't stress that enough. That's pretty much it for this chapter. There may be a few keynotes thrown in there. Feel free to go in and review it. Hope that was helpful. And once again, you guys stay safe.